Hey, how y'all doing? Are y'all ready? We are back. We are back the day after the trial. Let me know that you guys can see and hear me by putting a 1 in the chat or a thumbs up like, hey, AV, we can see and hear you. You're back to your old mic because the other one was crazy with an echo. We didn't want that to happen because the other one was crazy. I had to fix it. Yesterday, a whole bunch of you guys came up, and I'm really excited for today. We're talking to Doug Weinstein today, and there was some court proceedings, so we will also check that out if there is enough time, but you guys can hear me. Wonderful. You know what, 147, I don't know. We're gonna ask. We're gonna ask. I wanna thank all of the channel members, because here's what happened. Yesterday, last night, I asked you guys a question. I said, hey, we've got quite the lineup in these next few days. And what I would love is for my members to have an opportunity to ask some questions. What does that mean? Number one, today we have Doug. Tomorrow we have Thugger Daily. Friday we have Max. Monday we got Ashley Merchant. We even got LA Pink on Tuesday. Your girl has been busy because that's how much you guys mean to me. Meaning, I want to thank you guys for all the support covering this trial. In fact, I am talking to Kat Not Williams about doing a creator marathon. All the people that have been covering this case, we're doing that too. So Kat and I are in the very early stages of putting that together. But I just want to make sure, like, you guys have invested so much time and energy, not only with me, but with others, like, you know, to watch this case. I know that takes time out of your day. So me and Kat are putting together at the very end just a megathon of a lot of creators that have been covering this trial. We will be able to debrief together. And this is special for me because at the start of the year, start of 2024, me and Kat did a collab together. And we were both very small creators, and our channels have grown significantly. She was one of the first collaborators that I did with another creator outside of the lead attorney. So to see her growth, I'm just so proud of her. I'm so proud of a lot of people. And, you know, I think the biggest thing about this case, guys, is that not only, like, at least for me, I want to teach you guys about the law because it is going to benefit you in some way. Just having general knowledge. There's one thing to trial watch, but there's another thing to, like, learn about how the law works and how it, you know, like, these things happen every single day. It wasn't just YSL. Shenanigans happen in courtrooms all the time. However, what we did is we shined a big light on that. Everybody's doing great, you know, and y'all all tuned in and you supported so many different creators on this. So we're waiting for Mr. Weinstein. I'm so excited to talk to him. Let me just make sure our banner is good. Our banner's good. How are y'all doing? How do y'all feel about the trial now that it's over? All these things have been happening. I'm gonna read a couple supers and then come to y'all in the chat. And then again, members, thank you so much for submitting your questions. I did include a few of them. And then towards the end, if there's enough time, I might get a few more in with Attorney Weinstein here. Shout out to Paige with the 10. Thank you so much, Paige. She says, I love Doug's cross-examination style so much. I'd love to know if he was able to read how the jury was feeling throughout. And did that ever affect how he presented information? Well, this is a good one, Paige. So I'm going to save this one. So when he comes, I will read your super chat and we can go from there. Shout out to V, who's been a member for 5 months, says, AV, you are the shizness. Thanks for all you do. No, thank you guys for watching. This is really important. It's super important. Hang on. Hold on one second. Let me share a link. We troubleshooting, guys. But shout out to V, who's been a member for 5 months. She says, you are the shizness. Yes, thank you. You know, it's one of those things, guys. I just want to make sure that because you've invested and believed in so many of us and have learned about the law, that you get a little something for it. So, sorry guys, I'm over here troubleshooting with Doug. We're trying to get him on here. Sometimes StreamYard has its little problems. I'm hoping we don't have that echo issue today. But I was just watching the Lawyer You Know's channel, and he was having some similar sound problems as well. I don't know if he uses StreamYard, but some of these platforms, whether it's StreamYard, whether it's Stream, what's the other one? I forget the other ones. But it's one of those things where you got to pick the right platform and hope that it works. Too funny. Shout out to Trucker T, Brooklyn with a 5. Trucker T, is good to see you. And our truckers mean a lot to us. Like, and especially as people that listen to podcasts, as truckers, you're one of those people that, like, you have long hauls, right? You're driving across the country. You're getting things from one place to another, especially during COVID. Y'all meant so much. What does Trucker T Brooklyn say? He says the state knew they had nothing. It was all for fanny pants, gorilla grip Willis to stay in office. Hey, AV7. Hello to you too. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day. And reminder, it's Mercury retrograde. Reminder to hit the like button on your way in, guys. That would be fantastic. So what did y'all think? Did you think that we were going to get guilty verdicts? Like yesterday, I was a little concerned about Shannon. I was like, uh-oh, because the day before they were asking questions. They were asking questions about the lyrics. They were asking questions about the surveillance footage, right? I was a little worried for a second there. I was just like, I hope there's not going to be a negative outcome here. But it looks like we did not get that. Shout out to Dub Rightside. I haven't seen you in forever, brother. He says, what the hell is Mercury retrograde? That's like an astrology thing. So what it means is Mercury is somewhere, right? And it is going backwards. This is like women love astrology. You guys know that. That's what happens. That's what happens. Shout out to Granddad Gaming, who says the same. I was very concerned for Shannon, but always thought Yak would be good. I agree. And I can't wait to talk to Doug about this, because there is a lot that goes into legal strategy. And, you can kind of see it when the plea deals were out there, right? The plea deals were being offered. When young Thug accepted his plea deal, we had to really look at that, because it was a game changer in the case. Yesterday, we had a poll where we polled you guys and asked, hey, do you think he should have stayed? Would it have been a benefit if he had stayed? 50% of you, I believe, said yes. And another 50% of you were like, no, I think it was a good strategy. I think it was a good strategy for him to get out while he did. Brian had mentioned that there were some health concerns, and who wants to continue to sit in jail at Rice? I don't think he was at Rice Street, but we've talked a lot about the jail system and have shined a light on it, and we're going to continue to do that. We're working on a documentary right now for you guys to really learn about what happens in jails. It's not a pleasant place at all. Few supers coming in. Shout out to Audrey. No comment, no question. Pure love of the game. Thank you so much, Audrey. Shanta's here as well with the 5. Says reflections of a Gen X diva had Doug and Woody on. I saw that. One of you guys just sent that to me. It was a fun watch. She says, Doug said Woody did more for the trial than anyone. And I totally agree. I think he did. He absolutely did. Woody was touched. Doug is the best. Well, that being said, guys, I'm going to go ahead and bring in the man of the hour. The man of the hour. I'm so excited to talk to him. One of the best attorneys on this case. We have been cheering all the defense attorneys on from home, but Doug was actually super kind, and he was actually my first interview, one of the first attorneys that came on. So I have a soft spot for Doug and all that he does for his client. That being said, I'm going to bring him up now. Ladies and gentlemen, Doug Weinstein. Let's give him a proper welcome. Hi, Doug. How are you doing?
Hey, AV. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so excited
Why am I
to
getting
chat
this
with you.
feedback? Hold on. I'm getting terrible feedback.
Uh-oh.
Let's try again. Okay, it's working fine now. No,
Okay,
oh,
wonderful.
I'm still getting feedback.
Huh.
Where's that coming from?
Do you have YouTube up?
Hold on a second. Okay, how about now?
Okay. Can you hear me now?
It's perfect. It was my.
Okay.
No, it's still going on. I'm gonna leave and come right back. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
everyone.
Thank you. All right, thank you guys for welcoming Doug. I'm super excited for this. It's gonna be fantastic. You guys are saying turn my volume down. Interesting. Let's turn processing off. Turning the volume down. It appears to be fine on my end. Put your earphones. Okay. That's probably what it is. It could be the Rodecaster. Technology ain't. Yeah, technology is it is a damn echo. Yeah, the echo is not okay. I'm just checking. I'm making sure everything is good on my end. Okay. Y'all know we've been having this problem with StreamYard over these past few weeks. I'm just checking the Rodecaster to make sure it's not me. Turning everything down. Oh, yes. Yes. Headphones. Headphones usually does the job. Yeah, it is, Ayla. I don't know what's going on. And I was muting. So let's try. All right, Doug is back. We're gonna bring it back up. All right, Doug. Testing, audio test. Can you still hear it?
No, I think I'm using. No, I still got feedback.
You still got feedback. Headphones.
I'm even using a whole different system now. I'm on my computer instead of my phone.
Oh, okay. Do you have headphones? That usually does the trick sometimes.
Hold on a second. I'm sorry about the technical difficulties. Let's see. Give me a second. Three. Hello? Can you hear me? Now, of course, I hear nothing.
System, main stereo system. Uh-oh, we lost Doug. He's gonna come back. Can y'all hear me? You're saying I'm muted. It happens, guys. It happens. Says AV was muted. I'm gonna try to fix it. I think I know how to fix it when he comes back. So that'll work. StreamYard is not fun. It is not fun at all. Doug is the truth. Here we go. Okay. I think we might have fixed it. There we are. Can you see? Do you hear an echo?
1, 2, 3.
There we go. I think we have it.
No, I still have an echo.
You still have an echo.
Yeah. Is it a...
Hang on. Sometimes it's this. Like, I'm going to mute.
That's 1, 2, 3. Now I have no echo.
That's what it is. So what happened?
It's your end.
It could be. It could be. So here's what we'll do. I'll ask our questions, right? And I have an audio team. They will clean this up and then we'll get it out. So this is live for our folks. But what happens, what I've learned is that I have to mute myself while you're talking, which is completely crazy because we've been streaming forever. But thank you so much, Doug, for being here. First off, first thing I do want to ask, we have some prepared questions that the audience came up with. First of all, congratulations. This is good.
Thank you.
This is amazing. So happy for both of you guys, for Yak, for Shannon, the great representation and advocacy. You know, what I try to do on this channel is really, help people out and help them learn about the law. And I think that watching this case, one of the things that I'm really proud about is that this chat, for some reason, you guys would be prepared to object. And they learned how to object themselves. Like before you guys would say anything, they would be like, objection 403. Like it was amazing to be able to pull up the federal rules of evidence and teach them what all this stuff means. So I think we can start with the first question I have for you. You've been very vocal as an advocate in this case. Why was that tactic important for Yak's representation?
That's a great question. Oh, I'm going to let you mute because I'm hearing myself again. Okay, that's a great question because, um, first of all, let me say this. Diamante also learned how to do objections by sitting in that courtroom for 2 years. And I've said this before, but I explained to him at some point, I don't know how far we were into it, that he'd actually been sitting in that courtroom for more hours than a law school graduate sits in law class. So it's no wonder that he learned a lot about the rules of evidence. It was important for me to be vocal in public advocating for Diamante because when the DA brought this indictment and arrested Diamante and everybody else, she had a big press conference and really, I mean, just besmirched his character, said all kinds of terrible things about him and the other defendants. And Diamante doesn't have a PR team. All he has is me. And the other lawyers representing him, Jay and Katie. So we were the only means for him to get his message out in public. I understand that people watch the trial, right, that stream it, but that's a small minority, maybe 12, 15, 20,000 people at any given time are watching that trial. So I thought I had to get out there and be his voice because he couldn't do it for himself since he was locked up.
Yeah, I think you did so well at that too. Even with just, humanizing our clients sometimes is such an important thing. Sometimes we don't, people just watch a trial, but they don't know the inner workings of it. They don't know that every day, day in, day out, you form a connection. And especially since this is the longest case in Georgia history, I'm sure you guys have spent quite a bit of time together.
Yeah, we have, and that's obviously a connection I don't normally form with my clients. I don't see them on that frequent a basis. Like even in some of my civil suits that go for years, um, it's not the same thing. It's not sitting in court next to somebody almost every weekday for a 2 year period. So you can't help but form a bond, and I'm really glad. I really value the relationship I have with Diamante as well as with his mom, Tasha.
What was his reaction like yesterday? I mean, we saw some of it, but behind the scenes, how elated is he to be able to be free and clear of this?
You don't see it all in the courtroom. Of course, you see the hug there, and both of us are. It was a kind of a shock at first, to tell you the truth. I think we were in shock. Not that we were surprised by the verdict, but the way it came was just boom, boom, and on to Shannon. It almost didn't have time to process it. And then I didn't get to speak to him because I was in talking to the jurors. But afterwards, I went back out to see him, and they'd already taken him back out to Union City. So I drove out to the Union City jail and spent about an hour with him in a visitation booth. And there you could really see it. He just elated, like it's cliche, but a weight had been lifted from his shoulders. I thought I knew him over those 2 years, but really, in so many ways, he was a different person after he got that not guilty verdict. It was wonderful to see it. I'm so happy.
That's awesome. I'm really happy for him, and you guys did great work together. And it's been a rough week for him too, especially with the injury at the start of the week. So I'm sure that this good news was definitely something he was looking forward to. You did mention something during that last question about spending more hours in the courtroom than many law students. And I can tell you, as somebody that went to law school, like, wow, like that's like that front and center courtroom action, and although it really had to do with his freedom, we were doing a deep dive into him being awoken up like super early to go to court. Can you tell us anything more about that? Because is that normal, like to be woken up at like 2 a.m. and have to do this every day?
2 a.m. is not normal, which is why I wanted to bring that to the judge's attention. That is never a normal time to be woken up. Um, Part of that, I mean, the reason they gave for it is that he's recently been moved to an annex away from the jail, the main jail at Rice Street, and they have to transport him to Rice Street first and then over to the jail. But there's still no reason to wake up at 2 a.m. However, it is normal for them to wake him up at between 4 and 6 a.m. I've tried to get that push more towards the 6 a.m., but I think what a lot of people don't understand is as lawyers, we have virtually no control over what the sheriff's office does with people that are in custody, and the judges will not, in general, get involved with the sheriff's office and what's happening. It takes something really out of the norm or egregious before a judge will get involved in anything going on with the jail.
Yeah, it was weird to see that because, like, hearing 2 a.m. and then considering the transportation time, then considering almost over 8 hours in court. When does he sleep? you know?
Well, he doesn't get much sleep because a lot of times, well, first of all, it's incredibly loud at Rice Street. And I guess you can get used to it to some degree, but I can't imagine the sleep rhythms are what they're supposed to be in those conditions. So at most, you're talking about him getting maybe 6 hours of sleep a night. Now,
Wow.
I
I
only
don't.
get 6 hours of sleep at night, but I think that's because I'm old. Uh, but I certainly got a lot more than that when I was younger. But yeah, maybe 6 hours of sleep at night. And the reason that again, the reason that's so important is I need him to be there and be part of his defense. I rely on him and his input. And not all defendants are this way, but he was heavily involved. So if he was tired, if he was out of it, I couldn't effectively defend him.
No, totally agree. Totally agree with that. Just because, like, you want, because this essentially, even though it's been over a year, he needs to be paying attention. He needs to be alert. He needs to be listening to what's happening. And even just the jury reactions, looking at, like, some of the things that we can pick up from human body language, right? But I was really sad. And I think a lot of people in the chat were sad to hear that he wasn't, getting good sleep.
Yeah, yeah. And anyway, it's so important on a regular situation, but you've got something that's very high stress where I need him alert. Now, not all the time, as the jurors said, I think there were, weeks and weeks, if not months, that went by that not only had nothing to do with anyone in that courtroom, but even when it had to do at times with people in the courtroom that didn't necessarily relate to Diamante. But when it was a witness that did relate to Diamante, I really had to have his total focus. And honestly, even with some other folks, I needed his input on who these people were, what was going on beyond that, which I got from discovery.
Yes, yes. Everyone here really compliments you on your cross examination because you go in for what you're looking for and you get it very quickly. And we love that. So, as we were watching the trial this year, that was one thing that the audience definitely picked up on. I was going to ask you another question. Now, the other thing that I like to clarify too is that you're a part of a team for Diamante's defense. Tell us more about, what the team, how the team is comprised, because there's several of you that have been helping him out. And, what was everyone's reaction like?
Well, there's three lawyers in our law firm, and all of us were involved in representing Diamante, even though most of the time it would be me in the courtroom. But so, for example, the way it was structured is Jay Apt, Jay would do a lot of the more strategic, high level thinking, along with Katie. And then the day to day tactical issues would mostly fall to me. And we would just break up the work in different ways. I think one of the reasons I was there on the day to day basis is probably because I was more involved in reviewing that 6 terabytes of discovery. And although no one had command of the facts as much as Max Sharp, within our group, I had probably the best command of the facts, and that's why I was in there. But things like the disqualification motion, which I think was the key to getting the verdicts we got, was getting Judge Glanville removed. And I think it's the key to everything. Everyone pleading, that is the key point in this case, is Judge Glanville being removed. But I mean, I led that effort along with Katie Hingerty. And Katie Hingerty, and you saw her in the case, she does a lot of trial work, but also a lot of appellate work. So she was really important in polishing up all those briefs that I was filing with the courts.
Yeah, I'm so happy you mentioned that because, you know, from time to time, whenever I'm explaining things to the audience and we're watching, I always say, don't forget the famous Weinstein brief, right? Because that's really what set off a lot of this, you know. And can you imagine what it would be like if Judge Glanville stayed?
Yeah, it'd be a whole different world. We would still be in trial. We'd still have the prosecutor and Miss Love running that. I don't want to say running the courtroom. Let's just say running amok within the courtroom, and not being controlled, not doing the things that the prosecutors are supposed to be doing. And so, I chalk so much of it up to that. Of course, precipitated by Brian Steele having the nerve to go toe to toe with Judge Glanville on that previous Monday.
Very brave.
So.
That is awesome. That is awesome. We talked a little bit about Diamante's like immediate reaction. Do you have any line of sight on what the next steps are? Like, you know, I'm pretty sure release would be one of them. But what does the next few weeks look like for him?
Well, as you say, release, we're going to work on getting him released. Um, we've got to work through a number of charges, but I really think they're all going to be before Judge Whitaker. And I have every indication from Judge Whitaker that if we get a little degree of cooperation out of the prosecution, we'll be able to get these things resolved and get him out of jail soon and back to his life. And that's a main focus, on top of digging out of all of our other work. But we have not forgotten about Diamante, and I relish the day that we're going to get him out, and I can't wait to walk out of the jail doors with him. And I guess maybe I'll have to let the press know when that happens.
Do we think that he'll be home for Christmas?
I think so. I
Yay!
hate to make predictions in this case, but I think he'll be home for Christmas.
That is awesome. Home for the holidays. I'm sure his family would love that, especially the mom. We did see the heartfelt hug between the two of you guys yesterday. So I'm sure she is just so elated to have her son home.
Yeah, I'm not really a hugger at all. I'm like with anyone, I like have like a zone, so if you see me hug or accept a hug or hug, that's like a big thing happening. I mean, that embrace when we were sitting down and Diamante put his head on my shoulder in that courtroom and it was kind of breaking down. That's a moment that I'll always cherish and that'll live with me forever. And was worth the hug.
That is
I hugged
awesome.
back too.
You're not a hugger. I get it. And when the mom hugged you, that was a very long hug. That was several long hugs.
Yeah, that was maybe a little bit much for me, but I I mean, I've got 5 kids, and I'm not a mom, I'm a dad, but all that she'd been through, all that she'd put into this, the joy a mom would feel on seeing her son not be locked up in prison for the rest of his life. I don't even know what that must feel like. I don't want to know what that must feel like. Um, but I have some degree of understanding, and I'm just happy for her too. She stuck there the whole time. She was, as far as I'm concerned, she was the absolute number one family member in there.
Wow, that's good to know, because
Mhm.
it's so interesting because from our vantage point, with Maurice, Law and Crime, so many other creators that have been in the building, Miss Sylvia,
Mhm.
Dennis, Byron, so many people that have been streaming, sometimes we cannot see from home the other side of the courtroom, So it's
No.
interesting to hear that he had that support, that she was there day in, day out. That's fantastic. And it sounds like it's a great family.
Yeah, and then just to speak to that, a number of the family members, not just Diamante's family, a number of members, Jeffrey Williams' family members were there quite a bit. Um, you know, uh, uh, um, anyway, Mr. Stillwell's family had people there. There were a lot of family members were there, but Tasha was there day in and day out. And, obviously the victim's family, um, Donovan Thomas's family, Mr. Drink's family, they were there quite a bit as well. And I really feel for them, and I know what they're going through right now, and I've seen their reaction, and I understand it. And I'm just sorry that the DA's office and law enforcement were not able to bring the proper people to justice in those deaths.
Yes, yes. We've talked about that quite a bit over here. I have a really good friend of mine who works for the FBI, and we were recently talking about the investigation part of this case. And with this audience, I've been trying to really drive that point is that the investigation needs to be done thoroughly and completely before charges are brought against a person. And we do feel for the Drinks family and
Yeah.
for the Thomas family because at the end of the day, did the justice system fail them? Again, it's like the stage before it goes to trial is a proper and thorough investigation. We were cheering Brian on when it was like, hey, where's the McDonald's footage? Like every time we were talking about the McDonald's footage, but another key point that you brought up was the watch. Do we know what happened
Yeah.
to the watch?
Well, I have no idea what happened to the watch. And, it's interesting. I listened to some of the interviews with the jurors last night. I didn't bring up the watch when I met with the jurors, but um, I listened to some of the interviews with the jurors. And it's interesting that when you examine a witness, what the jurors or even what a judge may take out of it is not exactly what you're expecting. And what I was hoping that they took out of this was that some members of law enforcement were corrupt, and you probably couldn't trust a lot of what they had to say because of that corruption. It seems, if I heard the jurors right, they took out more of the sloppiness of the investigation and the poor quality of the investigation, which really wasn't what I was getting at, but it's equally valid. Um, that watch is, I think, emblematic. Now, they did have me worried when they came back with that question about the watch, because I'm like, oh my gosh, when I heard that question, did I make a mistake by bringing up the watch? Because now, if they have the misimpression that this is Diamante's watch, maybe they're going to think he was staying at the house, and now maybe they're going to put the drugs and the guns on him because they think they're staying at the house, and that's not the point I was trying to get. And if that's what they take out of it, I've made a huge mistake in bringing up the watch. Like, oh my gosh. So I was like sleepless for nights about second guessing myself on that.
That is so funny. That is so funny because like that's the other thing is like, it came up and even, this chat had been kind of curious about the watch and the significance of it. But to your point, it's always great. And when Nicola Westmoreland was here, she had mentioned that sometimes like seeing, the law and crime feed and seeing the court of public opinion, so to speak, and what people are generally thinking can give you line of sight of how the jury is thinking. Right. But to your point, it's so funny that they came back asking about that.
Yeah, I didn't realize what an important issue that was that I was bringing up. And Nicole is absolutely right about that law and crime feed or the cat feed, any of the feeds that I was watching. And we would pay attention to those feeds for a number of reasons. One, they were generally supportive of our clients. So anything I could do, except for Vera, anything I could do to help my client and keep his spirits up. So I try to, I would be like, ignore Vera. But anything I could do to keep his spirits up in that feed did that. But also, Nicole Westmoreland was absolutely right. I was trying to use it to try to gauge well, if this is what the people here are seeing or the jurors seeing the same thing. Now, I took it with a grain of salt because I'm like, the people on that feed saw a lot more than what the jurors saw. They saw all the things, and it was generally pro defense. So I'm like, I'm not gonna, it's not the Bible, but maybe it's some indication of what the jurors are. And you know what it turned out? After listening to the jurors last night, there was a lot of alignment between what the jurors were thinking and what that feed had to say.
Wow. No
Yeah,
kidding.
yeah,
That is
yeah.
amazing. That is, and that's the other thing too, is like while we're watching these trials, it's because we're all real people, but the jurors are real people too, that have general sentiments. We're all watching the same thing, but that is interesting. And it's shout out to Vera. She has been everywhere. I've had to ban her on my side. Like she has been on almost every channel. Just, it's hilarious to hear that you know who she is.
I take it she's not happy about the verdict.
Yes, yes, to say the very, very least. So coming back to Diamante's charges, right? It was super brave for both you and Max to stay on the case, right? After these plea deals happened, And, I've been talking to these guys a lot about legal strategy. Now, the charges that he had against him, tell us a little bit more about the strategy to stay, not accept a plea deal, and if you thought those charges were weak, was the evidence weak? Talk to us about
Okay.
that a little bit.
Sure. That was 110% Diamante's decision to stay in this and to not take the plea. Um, I would say that it was um, against my advice. Um, I thought that I thought that for sure, 100%. I'm never, no lawyer's going to tell you 100%, but I'm like 80, 90% we're going to beat the Donovan Thomas charge. 80, 90% we're going to beat the things found at Jeffrey Williams' house. I was confident of that. The problem is Georgia's RICO conspiracy law is so incredibly broad, incredibly easy to prove up that it was a concern for me. And so he was looking at, because he's a recidivist, or was named it, they gave a recidivist notice. He's looking at 20 years for that. And I don't know how much of that the judge is going to sentence to confinement. So I have to give my honest opinion, which is you're taking a big risk. And Diamante's position was that I'm free to share with you. Diamante's position was, I didn't do this stuff. I'm not going to take that charge. I have confidence in you. I have confidence in my team. We can do this. We can do this. Tell me if you think I'm winning. Like, I think you're winning. I think we're winning. I think we're winning. He's like, yeah, I got confidence in you. I'm not taking a charge that I'm not responsible for. We're going to take it to the jury. And that was just incredibly brave. I'm going to say this too. By the same token, those people that decided to plea out, Jeffrey Williams and the others, that is an individual. I've said this to a lot of people, but I'm going to say it again. That's an individual decision. You're not in their shoes. Nobody should question them. Nobody should second guess that. I understand you can say, well, if it would have been me, I'd have done something else. But you don't know until you're there. You don't know until you're there.
You
Um,
don't. You totally don't.
yeah.
And that's the other thing too with trial strategy, right? I sometimes I pull up the model rules of professional ethics and I show them some of the rules, right? The client is always in the driver's seat, right? We're here to advise them on what the options are, but they're always in the driver's seat, and it's great to hear, and it's actually quite inspiring. And please share this with Diamante. It's very
Yeah.
inspiring that he chose to fight it out.
Yeah. Now
So
it is true that I did tell him look, this thing is never going to hold up on appeal. If for some reason they come back with a guilty verdict on the RICO, it's not going to hold up on appeal. The problem is you could sit in prison for 5 years while that appeal gets heard. That's the issue. But it won't hold up. So in a way, you could say we were playing with house money. We had that in our back pocket. And he knew about that as well. But he was still going to have to do some time until that appeal could get resolved.
wow, wow. What are your thoughts on the charges that were brought against him in the original indictment versus after the plea deal, and just two defendants left? And of course, there are others from the original group of the 28 folks. But what were your thoughts after the folks accepted plea deals? How did that change the trajectory of this case?
Well, it's interesting because after the plea deals happened, the state wasn't exactly sure how they were going to proceed, because we would try to get that from them. Are you still going to bring in all of these overt and predicate acts that have nothing to do with the defendant still in the room? Initially, they were going to do that, um, which would have been a huge amount of work for Max and myself, because what that meant was we were going to have to go in and even and learn everybody else's case. We were going to have to learn Mr. Huey's case. We were going to have to learn um, the case for Lil Rod, all of these other things. Now we knew something about him, but we were counting on Miss D. Williams to handle Lil Rod. We were counting on certainly Mr. Matthews, senior and junior, to handle the Huey issues. And now that had fallen into our laps. So we were looking at a tidal wave. Now it ended up that the state didn't go into a lot of those, they went into some. But when those guys pled out, it was more work for us. The great part was those attorneys were still resources for us and continued to assist whenever we needed it these last 3 or 4 weeks of trial.
That's awesome. That
Yeah,
is awesome. And Angela's amazing. She
she
stopped
is.
by to the channel as well, and we actually had a deep conversation about Little Rod's case, and how there were some issues with. There were definitely some issues with the investigation there as well.
There
So
were.
there are some. This is why I love having discussions with you guys, and just kind of going a little bit deeper from what we see surface level. But I do want to go back to a topic we've kind of touched on, and I keep calling it the famous Weinstein brief. And we talked about
Mhm.
Judge Glanville. We talked about some of the issues that were happening. When you made the move, and Brian Steele had made this move as well. He, kind of took it up to the Georgia Supreme Court and ultimately got a favorable result. Now,
Mhm.
thinking about this, removing him, and I think you touched on it, but I want to go deeper. How did that shape the trial? And, we could have had Judge Ingram, and then we do have Judge Whitaker. Um, how impactful was it to have Glanville removed? And how did that impact the case with Judge Whitaker? Long-winded question, sorry.
No, I think that I guess as I said earlier, having Judge Glanville removed um, kind of removed the power of the state to control. Control is too strong a word. I think Judge Glanville would be offended by that, but just to kind of run amok in that courtroom, which is what they were doing without a lot of breaks or safeguards for them doing. The other thing we had was just all these evidentiary rulings that I believe Judge Glanville got incorrect, and that would come out in favor of the state. So we replaced him with a judge who I think was, even though not all the rulings went in our favor, was making evidentiary rulings that, for the most part, were correct. Actually, I should never question her rulings because she is far more experienced in this than I am. But I think for the most part, her rulings were right. They were fair, they were just, and it finally did a couple of things. It finally allowed us to properly try the case and properly defend our clients, which we could not do before. It allowed Max Sharp to shine because he was always an amazing advocate, but for whatever reason, Judge Glanville clearly just didn't care for Max. And I think that came out. I think you could see it. I had a good relationship with Judge Glanville. I mean, at least until such time as I did what I was required to do and had to physically present him with a motion to recuse himself and then challenge his response to that motion. But up until that time, I'd got along with him fine. But putting Judge Whitaker in there really allowed Max to do his thing, um, and that made a tremendous difference in the case. Anyone watching could see that. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, we actually did a best of Max Shard compilation, and we sent it to him. He loved it, so that was really exciting. But I do think that Judge Whitaker, one of my favorite things about her is that she would see things that were extremely unorganized, and she wouldn't ignore it. She would call it out.
Yeah.
Like it's, some of these things are ridiculous. Even before the plea deals happened, I think she had given a deadline of, we want this to be complete by the December holiday, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the other question I was going to ask is, we noticed that, usually with trials, the prosecution puts on their case, the defense puts on their case as well. And then typically you can have witnesses. We noticed that there weren't any witnesses that came up on this side, or at least with this trial. What's the strategy behind that?
That's a great question. I don't think most of the public who are not avid trial watchers, I'm sure most of your people are avid trial watchers, but most of the public don't appreciate that the defense, for the most part, we put in our case through cross-examining the state's witness. And this case, it was 100% of our case. But so we had witnesses. I had plenty of witnesses that I was prepared to call. For example, I had Kenya Morton that I was prepared to call Bushi, who is the one that was on that phone call. She was the one at the gas station. She was Mr. Kendrick's alibi witness. So I was prepared to call her. We had lyric experts we were prepared to call. We had individuals from the label that we were prepared to call. We had Killer Mike. I mean, we had a lot of witnesses that we were prepared to call. But when the state got to the end, when they were going through investigative Viverito, we had Max and I had to independently make this decision, but we came to the same conclusion, which was we don't really need any witnesses. And I really wanted to put our lyrics expert on. I really did. And I was trying to convince myself that we needed him. And then the more I thought about it, the more it was, I mean, everyone knows how passionate I feel about the use of lyrics. And I kind of realized, I wanted the lyrics expert more for me and that movement than I needed him for Diamante. And that the power that I would get by being able to stand up in court in front of the jury and say, Your Honor, we see no need to call witnesses at this point. To get that statement was more powerful than anything I would have gotten from the lyrics expert that would have helped Diamante. So I made that decision. And I guess Max came to a similar conclusion.
Yeah, that was super bold because I think either way you can't go wrong. Like and thank you so much for being an advocate for the RAP Act. I actually pulled that and I was going to go through it with them so they could see the history behind the legislation, but also why it is so important in federal cases, right? We have so many issues with Georgia law, like, just the repetitive RICO cases, the Trump RICO case, the education system RICO case, this RICO case. I've just been noticing that RICO is being thrown around everywhere now. It's in the Drake case. He's doing civil RICO. The Diddy case, there's RICO there. And it just wasn't as popular as it was before. So it is super interesting. It is super interesting. But I think going back to the original point, it was a bold move to not bring anyone up. And we're all super proud of you for that.
Well, if I'd have gotten guilty verdicts, I'm sure I would have been heavily criticized because I was criticized even before we got to verdict for not bringing forth any witnesses.
Really?
And I would have criticized myself. I would have been second guessing. Oh, should I brought in the lyrics expert? Should I brought in Bushi? I mean, you can't help it. And so I understand if people would have been second guessing in that case. I'm just glad it all worked out.
Yes, 100%. And I think that everyone has those thoughts, especially as trial attorneys. I was talking to Angela about something similar, and she was heavily criticized for not speaking up many times. But I mean, she really couldn't because there weren't a lot of times where Little Rod was mentioned. So, it's good to hear these sentiments from you guys, for sure, for sure. So going to my next question, and I've asked everybody this, what is your favorite moment in the trial that the public was able to see?
This isn't the moment that brought me the most joy, but this is, I mean, aside, of course, from the verdict, of course, I love the verdict, but I guess I'll tell you what I think is kind of one of the more important moments to me was Mr. Stevens on the stand, Tick on the stand, and the public getting to see how our system treats inner city, treats Black youth who maybe have a little bit of trouble at a young age and basically throws those people away. And to hear Tick testify about getting in some trouble at like 11 years old. I mean, I've had 4 11-year-olds. I have a 9-year-old now. And I think of where their brain is, where their development is. And taking them at 11 years old, I almost get a little emotional about it. And putting them in a facility where I think, having dealt with that facility, the people that work there do try their best. But they're really just thrown away. And that's where he learned about gang culture. Um, that's where he gets involved with this. It's just, okay, we're done with you. I mean, you're here. This is the path. We are going to almost track you down. Um, and I'm too old to fight every fight, but I just would love to see people start to work on better solutions for our youth that get involved in these kind of things and stop this perpetuating these situations with folks in the city.
Yeah.
Anyway, I hope the viewing public saw that and also saw Tick trying to get on with his life. And if I remember right, he had a commercial driver's license. I can't quite remember, but he's trying to get on with his life and he's getting dragged back into this. And it's affecting his work. It's affecting everything else. It's like, leave that poor man be. I mean, he's been through a lot. We chucked him away. I don't mean to rant about this, but um, I'm glad I see someone said we saw everything. I hope the world saw that. And
Yeah.
I hope we all learn some lessons for that and advocate and do what we can to effectuate change.
100%. And that's really why I love my channel. I love this platform and being able to shine a light on these things. And the way we try to produce things from a legal standpoint is to shine a
Hmm.
light on it. And, just kind of thinking of that. And as you were mentioning it, it is emotional. I mean, he was effectively a child. And the state is bringing up issues that happened 9 years ago for everyone. So it is kind of interesting to see how people are put into the system, but even when you're trying to move on, to drag people, like drag them all the way back. Hey, this
Yeah.
happened 9 years ago. Let's continue to hammer it away. And it's just like, for what?
Yeah.
Like, and do it the right way. Get the right people that were guilty of these crimes, or that committed these crimes, and get real justice for the families.
Yeah. I mean, look at Diamante. He's involved with that business with Martinez Arnold Duke. But he's arrested, he pleads guilty, he does whatever 5 years in the Fed. He gets out in 2020. He's he's exactly what we want of someone that comes out of the prison. He's being a good citizen. He's leading his life. He's not getting into any trouble. And he gets dragged back into this for some things he allegedly did 10 years ago. No, I get it. I mean, but this Rico, he's not doing any of this. He's living his life. He happens to be at Jeffrey Williams' house visiting that day, having flown in from LA a day or two before, and not even staying there. Not watching. He was not staying there. He picks up Duke at the airport. He goes to Jeffrey Williams' house, and here he is derailed again. And so I'm really glad that Diamante has such amazing spirit that I think he's going to be able to put this behind him, not be bitter about it, and get on with his life.
100%. 100%. And, I'm so excited because Ashley's coming on Monday, and like, not a lot of people know Duke's story. And so,
Hmm.
like, I love talking to you guys because it really humanizes your clients, instead of what you're seeing in the news headlines, like what you're seeing in the law and crime feed. These are real people. So I'm really excited about that. We talked a little bit about plea deals, so I'm going to skip this question. What was going through your mind during jury deliberation and when the verdict was delivered?
I was very anxious during jury deliberations. I thought I would be able to get all kinds of work done while I sat there. I couldn't get anything done. Um, I had a lot of nervous energy. Um, every time the questions would come back from the jurors, I'm trying to divine what their thinking is based on the questions, which everyone will tell you you're not supposed to do, but I just can't, you just can't help it. Um, and when the verdict came in, it felt, I don't know, it felt fantastic.
That's awesome. That is awesome. I'm so glad to hear it too, because again, like you guys, the attorneys, you're people too, and it can be nerve wracking. I remember when I was in law school, we did trial team, and we would compete against other law schools in different states, and it is
Mhm.
very nerve wracking if you're not used to it. Let me ask you this: What was it like? And now we're going to move to some fan questions. What was it like having the trial live streamed? I know that for higher profile cases, these hearings can be filmed. Maybe after a while, it's like riding a bike. But what was that like?
Yeah. I've been in other trials, not jury trials. They were bench trials. But honestly, you kind of forget the camera's there. You ignore it, especially you got Maurice over there. So it's just like, okay, you get to know him. He's a good guy. And then you, we're not playing for the camera. No one's playing well, maybe Woody's playing for the camera, but the attorneys in that courtroom aren't playing for the camera. Um, and you just forget it's there and you just go about your business. The only part about it that was a little weird, especially like for most of the trial, I was at that front table. So I was almost always in camera view. So I'd have friends texting me like, get off your phone, pay attention. I'm like, guys, you know what it's like to go to work every day and have your job live streamed to the world, um, which is a little weird.
That's
But
funny.
other than that, it wasn't a distraction.
Got it. Do you think it made a difference that it was live streamed for people to see what was going on?
Well, I think it made a difference to. I hope it makes a difference to how people view the justice system. How people I love that people could see some of the nonsense, some of the shenanigans, some of the crap that goes on from the state. Um, and I don't. Some people took a look at it and said, "Gosh, look at what's going on at this trial. Imagine what happens when it's not streamed." And I don't really think it's that way because this trial, honest to God, was an aberration under Judge Glanville. This was not normal. Normal was more like what you saw under Judge Whitaker. That's kind of more the normal situation. But by the same token, I think it would cost almost nothing to stream every courtroom, put it on YouTube. I think Judge McAfee does it. I think he's got a YouTube channel. So I think every judge should do that and put it all, and federal court, state court, stream it all. Let's truly, I mean, trials are public. We have a right to a public trial. You saw Bruce Harvey and I fuss about this constantly whenever they would try to not show witnesses.
Yes.
And so that's one of the reasons I was always up there. I would be the one to object constantly to them not showing witnesses. That seemed to be one of my roles in that courtroom. So I think it's great. Stream it all. Let everyone, Florida has a law called the Government in the Sunshine Law that requires a lot of open records, open proceedings. I think Georgia should have that. I think everything should be open.
100%, 100%. And, we do get a little quirky over here. I have a wrap it up box. And this was used many times when you're, across the aisle, there would be a lot of ramblings and, how do I say this? When there's rationale behind an argument, I think one time I timed it and it was like just 15 minutes. Like I took my phone and hit the stop clock. I held my phone right here. And this audience will tell you, they were like, we can't believe it's 5 minutes. We can't believe it's 10 minutes. It was just rambling. And
Well, that's why, yeah, I mean, that time that I cut off Miss Love, which was arguably unprofessional for me to do. But the problem was that I had been watching her in the courtroom for a year and a half. And what I had seen on argument after argument, if she lost, she would continue to argue. And
yes.
often she would get the judge to change his mind. And I
Mhm.
think she had lost that argument. It was a key argument for Diamante to win. And also actually a big win for Mr. Stillwell. Um, a very important argument for us to win. And I could see she was doing what she does, and I'd let her go about 10 minutes. And I was really, really concerned that she was going to get Judge Glanville to flip. And I felt I had to do that. I had to shut it down, or else I was at risk. So in any other courtroom, well, in all of my experience in federal court, no litigant would ever be allowed to do what she had done. So I didn't feel too bad about it. I felt a little bad later about the ears off a donkey comment, but I think I had to do something there, or I was at risk of the judge changing his mind.
Yes, no, I'm glad that you did because we saw that shift between the two judges and we saw this pattern of behavior with Judge Glanville like nearly resulting in shouting matches between the prosecution and Judge Glanville. I mean, with a few people at the prosecution's table, it's like raising your voice and like literally it was very combative.
Yeah.
I have so many law students that watch me as well and like watch these proceedings. And sometimes I'll pause, like, okay, is that the best way to convey a message? Is there a much more shorter, concise way to respond to an argument?
Yeah.
Answer
Yeah. I mean, the
yes.
only thing I would say to law students, I mean, the main thing I think to keep in mind, and what you would see, I hope, from me in the courtroom, is your main resource in front of a judge is your credibility. And so that is what you should do everything you can to maintain, to spend it very cautiously, because it's all about credibility. And sometimes people would say, well, you should object to this, you should object to that, you should file this motion, you should file that motion. I mean, I would only file motions if I believed that I stood some chance of prevailing and that the risk and the credibility I might lose by failing. So there are motions I didn't file, there's arguments I didn't make because I'm going to watch that credibility and spend it very carefully.
That's excellent advice. That really is. And all the 1Ls, the 2Ls, the 3Ls that are watching, excellent advice. I really try to dig with you guys so that way these folks that are going through law school, that are coming out, they're fresh new attorneys, can get some perspective, and even the paralegals that watch us as well. There's so many legal
Mhm.
professionals that watch just to see, hey, what's going on? What can I learn from this? What can I glean from this? So super, super interesting.
Yeah.
Now,
I'm going to have to actually wrap it up pretty soon. So if you have a few last questions,
yep,
I'm
I'm on the
sorry.
last one. I'm on the last one.
Cool, cool. And I've enjoyed this. I don't mean that I haven't
Oh
liked
no,
it.
totally fine. Hours are billable. We understand that. Too
Not if
funny.
you're a criminal lawyer, you have to deal with it.
Too funny, too funny. So here's my last one. What do you think the next steps for the state will be?
Um, well, I imagine you're going to see more of what happened with Mr. Winfrey this morning, which is them pleading out the remaining defendants. Um, Clearly, I think the leverage the state has got a lot worse after the verdicts. So I'm hoping that our victory, and when I say ours, not just Max and myself, but the whole team that worked on this case, um, I'm hoping our victory provides less leverage for the state and more leverage for the defense. And I'm hoping the plea deals get a lot better to those folks that do want to plead out and walk away.
100%, 100%. So before I let you go, Doug, YSL trial in one word.
Chaos and monumental. That's two words, but let's just say
I love it.
monumental.
I love it. Awesome. Well, Doug, thank you so much. Where can people find you if they want to look for you on social media, if they want to hire you, if they're in the Atlanta area? Where can people find you?
Right. Well, my email, if you want to hire me, is doug@applaw.com, ABT, Alpha Bravo Tango law.com. So people can email me. I'm all over TikTok. I'm all over X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. So you can find me. I don't remember my exact name, but at this point, you can look for Doug Weinstein. I think you'll find the right one. There are some fake Doug Weinsteins on TikTok, but TikTok doesn't want to seem to do anything about it.
Oh, that
Um,
darn TikTok.
but look for me. So if you can't remember my email, you can DM. I usually respond. So I'm happy to help anybody that needs help. Okay, and I'm also happy to educate, answer questions because that's my true love. Is I love to be an educator, and that's why I really appreciate your channel, AV, because you do a fantastic job of educating the public, and I love that.
Thank you so much, Doug. That means a lot. I tell them it's the little channel that's growing, that little channel that could. We're
Keep
getting
it up,
there.
AV.
Thank you so much for your time, Doug. I really appreciate it. And we'll be in touch because
Absolutely.
my audio engineers are going to clean this up and I'll send you the final product.
Cool. Thanks, AV.
All
Bye.
right, take care. All right, guys. This is fantastic. We have our first interview on the books after the trial has completed. I'm so excited, and I really want to thank my members. A lot of those questions I, came up with last night, but a lot of the questions came from you guys. So if you are a member on this channel, we have several interviews to go. I'm going to read some super chats, so we're not ending the stream yet, but just letting you know what the schedule looks like. We have tomorrow we have Thugger Daily. Friday we have Max Shard. Monday we have Ashley Merchant. And I just need to confirm with LA Pink, who is a activist. I'm really excited for her. She has been exposing a lot of what's happening in the prison system in Georgia. She has been exposing a lot of what's been happening with the DA's office. So I'm really excited to bring her into the conversation as well and see what's going on. But I'm really thrilled, guys. Like, this is one of my favorite days all year. Doug has been amazing with his time. What a great attorney that Yak chose, a huge compliment to him. I always loved when Doug was in the courtroom and something, the prosecution would say something that just didn't make sense, and he would just kind of tilt his head and look, and it was the same thought that we all had, right? But let's come to some supers and chat a little bit more. This morning, there was a plea. I think it was like for one of the severed defendants. So there is some plea proceedings out there right now. I think it's about less than an hour, so we can watch that as well while y'all are here. But I really want to thank all 4,000 of you guys that tuned in to this fantastic interview. More to come. We have so much coming in the next few days. Let me come to our super chats. I think I left off right here at Shanta. I did read that one. Shout out to D, who said happy hump day. Thank you so much. Shout out to Gloria. Gloria sends a 5 and says the juror who kept asking to hear the lyrics didn't quite understand the English language. Oh my God, Gloria's going in today. Thank you so much. Shout out to T House, who's been a member for 2 months and says, welcome, Doug. Yes, we're working on the kinks, guys. I do have 2 audio engineers that I work with. So we're going to get to the bottom of this like echo thing. I don't know why it happens, but whenever I am not talking, I have to mute myself to prevent that from happening. But we're going to have them clean this up and we'll get a clean clip for you guys later today. But thank you so much, T House. Shout out to JL with the 2 says Doug could just call into Zoom, call on his phone. Yes, that was us trying to figure out all the audio things, but thank you so much, JL. Shout out to Trucker T Brooklyn with the 5 says yes and thank you. I'm on the road watching in the lead, wishing Broham a fast recovery. Doug and Max is the truth. Yes, they are both fantastic attorneys, guys, and that's the thing. Like, when I do these interviews, I want to make sure that you're talking to the lawyers themselves. You hear it from the lawyers themselves. You learn something from the lawyers themselves. If you ever find yourself in a criminal bind, these are perspectives that are just so valuable, And y'all know we don't judge over here, like people, everyone that you have met in some shape or form has had some run-in with the criminal justice system. Is it always fair? No, it's not. And that's what we're talking about. That's what we're showing you. The inner workings of this case. And the lovely thing is, with Yak Gotti, he was able to get not guilty across the board. And it was so enlightening that Max, shared with us, that was Yak's decision. He wanted to continue the case. He said, I refuse to take it. Sorry, fire alarm going off. It's always something. Oh God, guys. 1 minute. It's the whole building. It's a test. Sorry, y'all. You hear this, MG? This is crazy. There ain't no fire. I'm gonna give it a minute. might have to end the stream, y'all. It's still going. I'm so sorry, y'all. Okay, go down for 1 second. Oh, I left that on mute. Okay, I'm gonna put the trial on from this morning. Sorry, y'all. Okay, it's done. Jesus Christ! It's always something. It is always something. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like right when you think you're streaming and everything is fine, like struggle streaming. I need to put my editor on deck to clip that out. I can't believe that. Shenanigans. Anyway, I think we were here with Trucker T Brooklyn with the 5. And then he dropped another 10. Thank you so much. He said, Doug is the truth, 100%. Shout out to D with the 2, says, let's go AV, 5'3" and a Hellcat. Yes, I've told you guys the Hellcat story whenever I visit Atlanta. Shout out to Ari Nicole with the 5, says, Doug needs to be only on StreamYard and close the YouTube link. Yeah, we're going to test that. Like, I want to do it with 3 people. I want the audio guy, I want me, and I want a third person in one stream, and we're gonna record it and see what happens. Because I did a test this morning, y'all, and I thought it was the mic. I thought it was that old microphone, but something else is happening, and I don't know if it's StreamYard or if it's just time to switch platforms. Because it's been happening for like the last 2 or 3 weeks. Yesterday, a whole bunch of y'all came up after the case ended and gave your opinions, and that muting thing, I have to keep doing it. It's so annoying, but it happens. This is the process of building it as you fly it. And you know what makes me feel better is the lawyer, I tuned into his stream last night, and he was having some audio issues too. So whether you're a large creator or a small creator, it happens. You could be Emily D. Baker. Like, it happens. It's a part of growing. Thank you so much, Ari Nicole. Shout out to Nana Banana with the 2, says, Doug, you're amazing. Sound followed you from court. Yes. Doug is awesome. And again, he means a lot to me because as a growing creator, he was the first attorney from the case that came on my channel. So, he definitely means a lot, and I'm happy that you guys are celebrating this win for him. Shout out to Armand. Are those Canadian bucks, Armand? With the 2, says you might have your broadcast mix as the mic, as a call mic. Maybe. We're going to diagnose it. But thank you guys for all the suggestions. Several of you guys have sent me emails too with some different ideas on how to fix it. So thank you. Shout out to Shanta with the 5, says, congrats, Doug. We saw your passion. Are you going to stay in touch with Yak going forth? I believe the answer to that question is yes. So you guys saw how close that they are, how close he was to the mother who was coming to court every day. A lot of people didn't know that. Shout out to The World's End with the €2, says the effectiveness of the watch. His Dodd. Did you know the effectiveness of the watch? I think Doug answered that question. But yes, for the watch, we were like, what is going on? Shout out to FFS, who has gifted 1 membership. It's good to see you, FFS. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you. D with the 2 says Fulton County DA's office having a bad week. Oh my God, did you guys hear what happened yesterday? I need to do a video on this. So Fani Willis has been ducking and dodging this subpoena from the Georgia Senate Committee. And the subpoena is basically like, hey, hand over some records. We need those records. And you got to come in and talk to us. She hasn't been showing up. She's been ducking and dodging the subpoena. Well, Judge Ingram yesterday, ladies and gentlemen, yesterday ended up ruling against Fonnie and saying that you need to start showing up. So the DA's office had both of those losses yesterday. They lost the records request, or sorry, they lost the subpoena thing, and then they also lost this case. So interesting stuff. Bad day for them. Shout out to Allie B from Tennessee with the 10. Allie, hi, I haven't seen you in forever. She says, Doug, do you think there's any chance he will go to law school and pursue a career working for you? That would be interesting. He seemed so astute and looked very focused. You're such an inspiration, FYI. Thank you so much, Allie. And I'm going to pass this along to Doug. He had to go. We only had him for an hour, but thank you so much, Allie. FFS dropped another membership. Thank you so much. And look, guys, one of our sisters, Kat Knott Williams, gifted 10 memberships. Huge shout out to Kat. I am so proud of her and all of her growth this year. She has probably been one of the #1 streamers streaming this trial day in, day out. Her dedication is hardcore. Shout out to Kat. Thank you so much for helping grow the community. And if you guys missed it at the beginning, me and Kat are trying to organize all the creators that have been covering this trial to do like a trial megathon next week. Like, you know, we'll have all the squares, everybody here just kind of talking about their experience, interview style. So we'll go around the room and ask some questions. Really, really excited about that. So Kat is going to help me organize that. Shout out to Charmel, who became a member. Welcome, welcome, Charmel. You're going to love it here. Shout out to Mars, who's been a member for a month. Says salute to TLA, AV, Mel, Kat, Fit, Said, Cuff, and Daily. Yes, that's the squad. That is the squad. I'm sure we're probably missing a few people. Thank you, thank you. I cannot with this alarm. I'm going to stream the trial. 1 second.
All right, is this a negotiated plea? All right, go ahead.
Would you like us to stay at the podium or?
It doesn't really matter, the table's fine. Yeah, do please use the mic.
Okay. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me, Madam Court Reporter?
This is the reporter versus Mr. Jimmy Winfrey, aka Mr. Roscoe. He's charged in indictment 22 SC 183-572, counts 1, 24, 25. And just for your honor's edification, the state will be dismissing count 26.
Okay. And I don't actually have a copy of the indictment in front of me. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, Mr. Winfrey, if you'll raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to give in the matters pending before this court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, sir?
Okay.
Yes, Your Honor.
We are alarm free, finally. But real quick, guys, as we are continuing to read our supers, this is the proceedings for this morning. This is Jimmy Winfrey. He is one of the original defendants, and he is in front of Judge Whitaker talking about his plea deal. Okay, so it looks like there is an accepted plea deal that's happening. But let's tune into this. It's about 30 minutes long, so I'm going to probably put it on 1.25 speed just in case, you know, Miss Love or whoever's trolling me with this damn fire alarm. Maybe it's Vera. Somebody's trolling me with this fire alarm. We got to get this done. So let's keep going and check out what we missed this morning.
Can you state your true, correct, and legal name for the record, sir?
Jimmy, J as in jam, I as in igloo, M as in money, M as in multi, and Y as in young. Middle name Carlton. C is in currency, A is in Atlanta, R is in rich, L is in long, T is in Tommy, O is in options, N is in Nancy. The last name is Winfrey, W is in win, I is in incomplete, N is in Nancy, F is in free, R is in royalty, E is in entertainment, and Y is in young. Jimmy Cox.
That was entertaining.
It was creative. You got this.
Also, he has the deepest voice ever. Shout out to Jimmy. But real quick, guys, I did get a cash app from our stream sponsor, Polish Lucy, with Trainwreck Entertainment. If y'all could do me a huge favor and type Polish Lucy in the chat, she is your stream sponsor. Polish Lucy, thank you so much. Sister to the channel, fellow content creator. I think you guys are over 30,000 now. If any of the mods could drop the link to their channel, please check it out. They cover trials just like this, but they cover low profile trials, the things that you see every single day. There's a pretty cool judge they've been following too, so make sure you check them out. Let's go back in. And hopefully we're fire alarm free.
Drugs or medicine, sir?
No, sir.
Is there any medication that you take regularly or on a daily basis that you have not taken today that would affect your ability to understand why you're before this honorable court?
No.
And Mr. Winfrey, can you tell me how old are you, sir, and how far have you gone to school?
I'm 34 years old. I made it with the 8th grade education. When I went to prison, I obtained a high school diploma through Stratford Institution,
Okay.
private college.
So you have your GED?
High school diploma.
Okay. And are you able to read, write, and understand the English language, sir?
Yes.
Do you understand that you are charged with the following offenses in indictment 22 SC 183572, count 1, RICO, count 24, which is the violation of the Drug Act for the possession of oxycodone, and then count 25, which is the possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, and then you understand that the state will be no crossing count 26.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any questions about that for your attorney, Ms. Miller?
No, sir.
Okay, do you understand you have the right to plead either guilty or not guilty to these charges? And if you pled not guilty or remain silent, you may receive a jury trial.
Yes, sir.
Have you had enough time to understand and speak with your attorney, Ms. Miller, about all the facts and circumstances of the case and why you're here today?
Yes, sir.
And do you need any additional time to discuss any questions or concerns that you have in relation to the plea that you're before this court today?
No, sir.
And are you satisfied with the services that Ms. Miller's provided?
Absolutely.
And Ms. Miller, do you waive formal reading of the indictment?
I do.
As well as any defects in the indictment, including any with respect to your client's name for the purposes of this plea?
I do.
And Mr. Winfrey, has your attorney advised you of the minimum and maximum sentence for each charge you'll be pleading guilty to?
Yes, sir.
And did Ms. Miller advise for count 1, the conspiracy to violate RICO, the minimum is 5 years, the maximum is 20 years?
Yes, sir.
And for the possession of oxycodone, did she advise the minimum is 1 year, the maximum is 3 years?
Yes, sir.
And lastly, count 25, did Ms. Miller advise that the minimum for possession of a firearm by a convicted felon is 1 year, the maximum is 10 years?
Yes, sir.
And do you have any questions about the minimum and maximum sentence you could potentially be facing based on your plea of guilty here today?
No, sir.
Okay. And Mr. Winfrey, do you understand this is a negotiated plea of guilty, which means the state and your counsel, Ms. Miller, will make a joint recommendation to the court as it relates to a sentence, but the court does not have to follow that sentence and can sentence you to the maximum on each charge and run the maximum for each charge consecutively or one after another if she sees fit.
Yes.
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 And do you understand that this plea may be used to enhance sentencing on other convictions in this jurisdiction as well as in other jurisdictions, including the federal courts, sir?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Winfrey, do you understand that if you're not a United States citizen, a guilty plea will affect your immigration status and will result in deportation, regardless of any advice given to you by your attorney or anybody else?
Yes, sir.
Do you understand that you waive any and all defenses by entering a plea of guilty here today?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Winfrey, do you understand that by pleading guilty, you're giving up the following rights: the right to trial by jury, the right to remain silent and to not incriminate yourself, the right to confront witnesses against you, the right to assistance of counsel hired by you or court appointed if you were unable to afford an attorney at the trial of your case, the right to presumption of innocence, the right to testify on your own behalf and to present other evidence, the right to subpoena witnesses and to compel the production of evidence, the right to have the charges against you proved beyond a reasonable doubt by the state of Georgia, and the right to appeal if convicted of these charges after trial. You understand that you are waiving or giving up all of those rights by pleading guilty here today?
Yes, sir.
And has anyone, Mr. Winfrey, forced, threatened, or promised you anything to get you to enter illegally before this honorable court here today?
No, sir.
Hey guys, so listen, my maintenance people just showed up. They're doing fire alarm testing. So it is going to be very loud and probably impossible to complete the stream. So real quick, I just want to thank you guys for everybody that dropped a super chat. Buddy 305 Love, thank you so much. Shout out to Juror 56. I don't know if this is the Juror 56, but thank you so much. The little gaming channel with the 50, amazing. Thank you. Content creator, always supporting your girl. Pam, gifted 20 memberships. Pam, I saw when you did this. Thank you so much for that. All right, guys, I gotta go. I'm so sorry. But thank you for everything. We're gonna chop this up. I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe out there. Bye.